for an idea also, there are two things. One, is it something that there is a need for? And if there is, are there other competitors that are doing it? And what are you doing different from them? Secondly, is it implementable? If you have a grand idea and it's, brilliant, and you say, okay, next month we will just shift the whole population to Mars, and that's how we solve the global warming problem on Earth. Now that's a brilliant idea, but is it implementable? Can you do it?
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Today it is an honor and a pleasure for me to introduce you all to this very particular session, where we are going to know more about the role of universities and colleges in promoting entrepreneurship. My name is Harsh, and I'm going to moderate this session for all of you, wherein I'm going to introduce you all about session and perhaps the person who is going to interact and address all of us. First of all, I request you all to kindly acknowledge and welcome the presence of our esteemed guest. And trust me, she is very dynamic, very interesting, and very renowned personality, none other than Ms. Ira Singhal, who is here with us. I would like to request all the persons, those who are watching this session on YouTube, to kindly upload in the comment section and welcome the presence of our esteemed guest. Ms. Ira Singhal ma'am is an Indian Administrative Service Officer and a computer science engineer. She was the highest scoring individual in the UPSC Civil Service examination for the year 2014. She completed her B.Tech from Netaji Subhas Institute of Technology, University of Delhi, and MBA from FMS Delhi. And I believe her profile has so many things, so many glories, which I won't be able to explain in next few minutes. But I'm pretty sure in this conversation, we are going to learn a lot from her. So first of all, ma'am, I welcome you to in this session. Thank you so much for joining and agreeing to share your thoughts with us.
Thank you so much, Harsh. Yes, let's get into it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. It's our pleasure, and I'm very much looking forward to this conversation. So moving to the topic of today's session, which we have chosen, is the role of universities and colleges in promoting entrepreneurship. It's the destiny of our future graduates to tackle some of the society's most urgent and pressing challenges. Entrepreneurs have the power to save the world by developing versatile skill sets and profitable business that are crucial to the progress of our economies. But just how does one learn to be successful entrepreneurs? How do we inspire our young generation to go out there and keep learning so they can make their mark on the world? Do we need dedicate more resource for the formation of entrepreneurial environment within the higher education? Environment that foster progressive ideas and innovation and equip students with the practical knowledge and skills that need to navigate the choppy water of business ownership.
So, there are, like you mentioned, there are two components to every business, right? To becoming a successful entrepreneur, there are two components. One is the idea, and second is the actual implementation of that idea. Now, where most Indian businesses fail is that everybody has an excellent idea. We're great with that, but we don't actually know how to implement it. And, even when you go to a business school, you're more taught towards or pushed towards becoming an employee rather than a business owner. And that's the difference that we need to, solve. And that's the problem that we're currently facing. So what colleges and, universities, and in fact, I think it starts at school level, need to do is actually teach our children how to conceptualize and then think of the implementation steps, from finance perspective. How do you raise money? How will you earn money out of that idea? What team members do you need? What are your strategic steps? What are your goals? So your mid-career plans and your long-term plans for that business. Then, what does your organization structure look like? What does your marketing look like? What does your sales strategy look like? And, operations, that's another really big part. Plus, what IT interventions are you looking at? So when we're talking about product-based entrepreneurship, that's what we look at. IT-based, again, you look at, do people really need your solution? And is there a competition that exists? And what are you doing different from your competition? And then how do you reach your audience? That's where most businesses fail, because everybody has a brilliant idea, but nobody really knows who my target audience is and how am I going to get to them. So that's something that needs to be pushed through colleges and schools. I think there's also one issue which is quite important one for an Indian society. Unfortunately, Indian society is very risk averse. What that means is that your parents do not want you to take a risk with your career.
Correct.
Okay. So from the family itself, you're pushed towards finding a job. When you talk to a child and you ask them what will you become when you grow up, you ask them either to become a professional, which is like a doctor and an engineer, or some CA or lawyer or something like that, or you talk to them about where will you work. Nobody actually starts pushing the idea of who will you give work to. Will you say so setting up a business is not something that automatically comes to Indians, and it comes from a very long history of being a colonial nation, right? So a country that was financially not as stable because you had a foreign power ruling you. We're very risk averse and we're still not confident enough in our financial capabilities, which is why we try and not take risks, and we think having a job is safe. There is zero investment. You keep getting a salary every month and you don't have that tension of growing the business and all of that. And that's actually done a lot of harm to our country, because if everybody is looking for a job, who's giving the jobs? And we constantly keep looking at unemployment numbers, and we constantly keep looking at jobless people, but we never ask them as to why they are not the ones creating jobs. If you don't have a job, you can look at creating jobs for others, right? But that's something that we've missed the boat on, and that's something that we need to solve at our university or our school level. So, which is where what you're saying comes into picture, that we need to have cells in universities where first you have incubation for the ideas. We teach kids, okay, this is an idea. Is your idea practical in itself? Is your idea so? For an idea also there are two things. One, is it something that there is a need for? And if there is, are there other competitors that are doing it? And what are you doing different from them? Secondly, is it implementable? If you have a grand idea and it's, brilliant, and you say, okay, next month we will just shift the whole population to Mars, and that's how we'll solve the global warming problem on Earth. Now that's a brilliant idea, but is it implementable? Can you do it? So that's the problem, right? So both your ideas need to be checked on both things. That as to is there a requirement for what I'm suggesting? So is there a market, and is it a large enough market? You can't have two clients. That doesn't work like that. So your market has to be large enough for your business to keep growing. And secondly, you need to understand is this implementable? Is this doable? And do I actually have the resources? And then comes the whole planning your business stage and raising finance and people management and all of that. So, and that's, it's at university level that you can actually do it best. Because you'll have enough teachers and enough, that incubation environment. So that protected environment where, if you fall, there's someone to catch you. That exists, because once you go out in the real world, there's nobody guiding you. There's nobody to catch you if you fall. So when you're in a university sort of setup, people, there are people who will catch you, and you can learn from your mistakes a lot better. Secondly, the kind of resources for research and academic inputs that are available in a university environment are not available anywhere else, which is where, as a school kid, your perspective of the world is very limited. So, there are a couple of kids who've been prodigies, but besides that, for most of us, this perspective in school is a little limited in terms of how we understand the world, and hence how good our solutions can be. And so that's where universities and colleges play the most role. So I'm glad you picked this topic, because it's actually something that needs to be discussed, needs to be encouraged.
Yes, ma'am. Indeed, ma'am. I think there's a very need of this hour to discuss this topic. And also, ma'am, let me tell you, you have mentioned very actually very correct and very genuine points. You have mentioned one of the parents, but what I believe, what I have seen in my personal observations is that if we compare the parents of today's generation in comparison of the parents of 90s generation, then now parents of today's generation are letting their children to allow, suppose that if their children want to become a YouTuber, want to create a Instagram meme page, then they are letting them, they are giving them us, they say that we will work hard and let's our child do what they want to do actually. So that is the best generation, and I am sure.
No, there is also a gap in that. See, there is also something called too much freedom. That's also a problem,
Yes.
right? So the freedom, yeah. So you shouldn't let your children do whatever if there isn't something that will give them a safety net. It's not bad to have a safety
Correct.
net. It's a
That
good
is also
thing. It keeps you stable, right? So while you must let your child dream and do what they want, but you must also let your child have a basic safety net. And that's where I think a lot of this. So you must realize people who are parents today actually are the ones who got their jobs in the IT boom. The 90s and the early 2000s is where all the IT boom happened, and most people got good paying jobs, maybe 3 times as much salary as their parents, and they were all private sector jobs, not government jobs. So the mentality of this generation is a little easier. And but what they've done is that we're and I unfortunately or fortunately happen to be a part of that generation, is that we kind of let our kids do whatever. We don't have the controls and the checks, because maybe we went through them so much that we grew up with so many restrictions. So we're letting our children do whatever. But I do think while that's excellent to let your child have their plans and make their path, we must still have them create safety nets before they step out. And what you're saying actually is relevant only to the metros and to the big cities. When we go to the smaller towns and the small tier 2 cities, and let me tell you, you're a guy, so it's a lot easier for you. But for women, that opportunity still does not exist, not even in the metros.
Ma'am, my next question to you is, actually you have mentioned this point, but let's be more specific. Any career path requires training, whether you are an accountant, an office manager, or an airline pilot. Becoming an entrepreneur is no different. The skill required to be good at entrepreneurship are not exclusive. They can be applied to almost any field of work. Suppose you want to work in corporate, in government sector, then these skills can be applied there as well. So, ma'am, do you support the idea of entrepreneurial teaching as a part of higher education?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. We must. Because, see, what entrepreneurship is actually just how do you survive in the real world and understanding how the real world works, right? So it's about teaching you about finance, it's teaching you about HR management, it's teaching you about, what marketing is. So in government, let's talk about it. Vaccine, right? The corona vaccine. Now, we had that's telling people to take it is actually a marketing strategy, right? You market the vaccine to people; it's for their good, but the strategy will be different. But it is still a marketing thing that you need to do. So no matter where you are, for us to get our teams to work during this COVID lockdown, it was an HR management, planning your teams, who will come when, and motivating your employees to work on all of their holidays. So all of that is HR. Then your management of supplies, where are we getting our oxygen concentrators from? Where are we getting our oxygen vehicles from? Where are we getting our cylinders from? ICU beds, all of that. So that was supply chain management. So that was operations. Money management, again, how much are we spending? Do we have money for this? Do we have what activities can we take in the budgets that we have? That's financial management. So and the whole planning of the whole thing and everything was, again, strategic management. So it was management, and you're completely right. All of whatever you do in life, no matter what field, you will need these tools. And that's what and entrepreneurial tools are exactly the same. So yes, absolutely. And I think everybody at school level itself should get a basic idea, because that
Correct.
exposes you to the real world.
Correct, ma'am. So can we conclude that the very simple and obvious answer is yes?
Sorry.
Can we conclude that the very simple and obvious answer is yes?
Yes.
All right, ma'am. Ma'am, what we have seen in the last few years that whether our government has also focused on the area of producing more job givers rather than job seekers. Whether it was a Make in India, whether it was a Skill India, whether this is current Atmanirbhar or Self-Reliant India. Also, when we have seen that when our recent budget of when our finance minister was announcing in 2021, this said one point that government have no business to be in the business, and side by side they have promoted the idea of entrepreneurship, and they have They have given many kinds of aid during this pandemic period to support this MSME kind of things. So, ma'am, my question to you is, like baby is nurtured, incubation centers, established firms, colleges, and universities provide facilities to nurture young firm startup during their early months or startup year of growth. Further, this collaboration program designed helps new startups to succeed. Just one cannot imagine a college today without a library or place of physical world. Can we believe that incubation center is equally essential in today's competitive and fast-changing VUCA world?
Yes, and most of the good colleges and top universities and all do have incubation centers, and they've actually had amazing businesses grow out of them. You may not know about them as much because most people don't actually think about entrepreneurship still as a regular person on the street today. But most of the colleges and at least the technical colleges, the engineering colleges,
Correct.
they definitely have centers. The business schools and the engineering colleges definitely have those. So back when I was in business school, we had an entrepreneurship cell. But yes, very few people took it up. Very few people went into setting up their own businesses. But yeah, it did happen. And it's very, very important because, we can't, as a country, unless there is someone giving the jobs, there are no jobs.
Correct.
And government cannot be the only one giving jobs. In fact, if everybody works for government, who is government going to serve? So, we need people doing other things, and government can never absorb so many people. So, and it's a bad thing if government is the one who's the biggest employer in those terms, absorbing the most number of people. Yes, it does, because it's a single entity. So obviously spread across just by that and the kind of work that government ends up doing, it does become the biggest employer. But in real terms, the number of total people in government sector versus private, government cannot ever be that big. And you need someone to generate money. See, how does the government get money? From taxes, right? Who pays the taxes? Someone who's producing something. So unless there are people producing, the government will not get the taxes and hence not be able to pay the salaries of all those people that it's employing. So businesses is where any country's growth or survival is, and that's historically been true, and that's something that we definitely need to push, and which is where your incubation centers and all of that in colleges becomes so vital.
Indeed, ma'am. Ma'am, my next question to you is, this question is for computer science engineer and not very much specific to IAS officer. So my question to you is, our Union IT Minister Sri Ravi Shankar Prasad always keeps saying India has a potential to become global data refinery center. According to Mr. Prasad, data would drive the digital economy and international commerce, that it offered great opportunity for India to emerge as a data economy. Supported by innovation and data refining, in a data economy, the raw material is data, and India produces humongous amount of data because of its population. Ma'am, my question to you is, what are your views on this? And if you see that we are the only few of the countries who have NIC in our country have own data center, and that is the biggest achievement I think we all have. So what are your views on this?
No, absolutely. One good thing about being in IT is, for most people, it requires very little basic investment, and that's where most Indians have a problem. We are not, rich generally. So for middle class, the reason that they were shying away from setting up businesses is because of the initial investment. So an IT sort of business does not require too much investment. It's more of mental capacity rather than a financial capacity. And that's where India wins the race. Plus, with the amount of data that will obviously be available with the number of people that we have, analyzing that data, analyzing it for different results becomes a lot easier, and hence it's easier for us to hone our skills on that. And I completely agree that India has that immense potential, and most of our kids are actually smart enough, to make that into a reality. So yes, definitely.
All right, ma'am. My next question to you is, though entrepreneurship in India isn't new, Indian business have come a long way. There are numerous Indian companies listed on the Fortune 500 and a huge number of Indian billionaires. Some of the list are especially inspiring because they managed to make their fortune during the British rule when the environment was not conducive for business, and particularly for Indian businesses. The one who succeeded in that environment went for the extra mile to succeed. How do you see the future of entrepreneurship in India in the next 10 years?
Thankfully, like you mentioned earlier, that most of our parents today are letting their kids do that. and a lot of kids are looking at independent businesses and to becoming successful in their own right and not wanting to work for someone else. So I think we'll see a lot more growth. We'll see all of this having exponential growth, if not linear growth. But yeah, I definitely think we'll have a lot many more businesses, and because there was a period when a lot of businesses came up and most of them failed, people now know what not to do. See, in business, it's very important to know what not to do, just as much as what you should do. You need to know what not to do, and that's something that has been solved with that, right? So a lot of businesses failed in the recent past because people just jumped in without understanding their sector, without understanding the need, without understanding their whole supply chain, how they're going to manage everything. But because of that failure, people now understand all of that, and hence are a lot more prepared. Plus, the kind of support systems that are available today to an entrepreneur did not exist, let's say, 10 years ago, right? So today, you want to set up a business. The kind of regulatory environment that exists is a lot more conducive. I wouldn't say it's amazing, but it's definitely a lot more conducive today than it was maybe 10 years ago. Plus, the kind of financial resources available to you, government systems available to you, the knowledge bases that are available to you is definitely a lot bigger. And hence, it allows people to think and then plan the implementation. Earlier, what used to happen was you could just think, but you couldn't plan your implementation because you had no access to resources. Correct. Today, you have access to resources. And one big thing is with skill training coming in, with us training our manpower in the next few years, what will happen is that you will have actual skilled manpower available for your businesses. That was another problem that happened earlier, that we didn't have enough people that we could hire. The skilled people that we needed for our jobs, they didn't exist, but they do today, and they will in the next few years. So for the job creators, there will always there'll be a good enough manpower to become their job takers. So that match also has happened, which is why I think in the 10 to 15 years we will actually see a very, very fast change.
Indeed, ma'am. I think the best part is that today we are the second world's largest tech-savvy country. And also, ma'am, my next question to you is: our Prime Minister has seen the vision of making India $5 trillion economy by the year 2024. But this pandemic has happened. So, ma'am, my question to you is: what do you believe? What will be the major sectors those which contribute to achieve this dream of making $5 trillion economy? Currently, we are 2.8. So, what do you think? What will be the major sector? I'm sure IT will be. Then, what will be the apart from IT?
I wouldn't. No, I think I wouldn't want to comment on what sectors, because what that does is that it discourages others. I think all sectors have potential. We obviously historically have been doing well in certain sectors, but that doesn't mean that we can't do in others. See, for a country like China, which kind of grow out of nothing, why can't we?
Correct.
Right? Why can't we? We have our strengths, and every part of India is very different, and every part of India has very different potentials. So I think we can do everything. Green energy, even smaller sectors like fashion and jewelry and all of that. We're good with all of that. So textiles, India exports one of the largest textile volumes in the world. So I think there's a lot that we can do. It's just a matter of creating the right environment and getting enough people to be excited about businesses, and getting enough kids to want to set up something, and to helping them set those things up and succeeding. Earlier there used to be this mentality that if my neighbor succeeds, then as if I have lost. But if we can change that into if my neighbor succeeds, then I also have that opportunity to succeed. That will also solve a lot of problems. Earlier, the support systems were not really available that much, but today people are realizing that we can, help each other grow. So I think because of that mindset change, also a lot of growth will happen.
Indeed, ma'am. Okay, let's be more specific. And suppose if I ask you, what will be the role of this young entrepreneurs in making this or achieving this dream? Then, what are your views on this?
It's the newer generation always on which the country stands. right? So it's the younger generation always on whose shoulders the country stands. So all of these people who are taking that risk are very vital for us, because if we don't have new businesses, we do not have enough money to feed the mouths that we have created. As a country, we are a massively populated nation. We need enough resources which will come from new businesses to feed all those people, right? So just for that, we need all of these people to succeed. And I think our kids are bright enough, and our kids are enthusiastic enough to want to and be able to do that.
Indeed, ma'am. Ma'am, my next question to you is, and I'm asking this question because you have previously worked in this corporate organizations and currently you are working with in public sector. So my question to you is, in good colleges, we have seen the culture of student organization. Societies which operate similar to the corporate organizations, student organization offer experience that cannot be had in classroom environment and offer the opportunity to grow both personally and professionally. Student organization also gives you the opportunity to network within a specific employer's market and with other students of similar interest as well. My question to you is, how do you define the importance of networking in both personal and professional life?
So what it does for you in your personal life is that it improves your interpersonal skills. Okay, the biggest rule to success, in my opinion, is how well you understand people around you. Because for everything, your target group is always people. If you're a business, you need to understand what your clients will think, what your consumers will think, what are their needs, how do they function, what are their lifestyles. And if I'm an FMCG company, I need to know your lifestyles, that I can make products which help you in that, right? If I'm an IT firm, I need to know what are your business procedures, and what kind of requirements would you have, and so that I can design products for that, right? If you don't network, you don't get that information, you don't get that knowledge. And that's where networking becomes extremely vital, because it helps you succeed in terms of understanding what is required, understanding the world around you, and also understanding how people will react to your ideas, to your suggestions, to your products. On a personal note, again, it's the relationships that that we survive on. Man is a social animal, right? That's the one statement that we make, and that's actually very, very true. Networking is how you explore more people, get more ideas, and are exposed to newer ways of life and newer circumstances, newer situations. In fact, that also extrapolates to your business. So I'll tell you, for example, if you have enough friends, and let's say they're from a different gender to you, you now know what their problems in life are because of certain, this thing. So for example, you know that your friends, their parents didn't let them have a job because there are no cabs available for them at midnight, So you set up a business which offers cab service for women at night, right? That help. And I'm taking a very basic example here, but that's a personal issue that you came to know because you had enough friends, and you could now use that in your business and create a business idea and set up a business for that. So both of these things are interconnected, and networking does get you all of that, does get you, those opportunities and that knowledge which will help you succeed in each sphere.
Indeed, ma'am, it was a very wonderful answer from your side. I am very much impressed from your this answer, and perhaps the most, I think, inspiring one for all of us. Ma'am, I don't want to take too much of your time. So moving to my last question of this session, at last, what will be one piece of advice would you like to offer to all the new generation of this India? They are having the enough capabilities, they are having the enough resources. So what will be the advices from your side to them?
So I'm going to give you one basic piece of advice, since we're talking about businesses and careers. Always have a plan B. So your plan A is something which is very, very aspirational and very, very grand. But your plan B is something which is a little more realistic and a little more grounded. So that if your plan A fails, you still have your plan B, which you can always, implement when all else fails. So if you, let's say, come from a very humble background, and you want to succeed in a business, and you think you want to take a loan which is massive, I would suggest start small. It's better to take smaller steps and then grow, than making such a big jump that you have that much distance to fall as well. So always have backup plans, always know what else you will do. See, end of the day, it is important for you to have a source of income. It is important for you to have your financial kitty, right, to be financially independent. In which case, if your big grand plan fails, and I hope it doesn't, but it's a good idea to always have something which you can do in case your big plan fails. And please have big plans, because unless you make a plan, it will never happen. So if you don't think, it won't happen. So think big, think out of the box, think beyond your limits, beyond your capabilities, if that's what you think you are you're restricted in. But also, yes, have a simpler and a smaller plan which is easily and quickly implementable, so that you're not stuck in life. You're not stuck in a place where your parents now are hopeless and you're hopeless. Because see, it's also our responsibility to take care of our mental health, and it does a lot of damage to you if you don't have that mental emotional stability. So my one piece of advice is, please have big plans, but also have smaller plans. And when you're making your big plans, plan your smaller steps within that big plan. Don't try to take that one big leap in one go. You may fall a lot farther. So have smaller steps, keep achieving those, and I'm sure you'll reach all those heights. And good luck to everyone who's been here, and my best wishes to you all. I hope to see many of you come out with amazing products which I can buy. So remember that you have a buyer. So think of good innovative things that we need as a country, and I hope you all succeed.
Indeed, ma'am. I'm sure this message will be inspire many of the viewers who are watching this session. And thank you so much, ma'am, for joining and giving your important time. It was a kind of healthy conversation with you. We look forward to conduct more such sessions with you in future. Thank you so much, ma'am.
My pleasure. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, ma'am.
On the ground is where I stand. Never give up, that was always the plan. It's so cold outside, I'm alone, I'm alright. It's so cold outside, I'm alone.